Welcome to 3 Point Firefighter. Today, my guest is Melanie Clark. So Melanie is the widow of Lieutenant Brad Clark. We lost Brother Clark on October 11th, 2018 in a line of duty death. So over the past 2.5 years, Melanie has made it her life's mission to carry on his legacy. She's left her career as a dental administration behind to focus on highway safety awareness within the fire service, to change and enhance the move over laws in Virginia, and to raise awareness about the move over laws to its citizens and visitors. On any given day, you can find Melanie at the Virginia State House, meeting with lawmakers in the House of Delegates and Senate, speaking in front of a group of public safety professionals at conferences, including FDIC, Texas Fire Chiefs, Drive Smart Virginia, and the Virginia Occupational Safety and Health Annual Conference, to name a few. Melanie, thank you very much for being on my podcast.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Jake.
Okay. So out of all the stuff I could have introduced you with, I had to cut it down, but there's still so much more. But I tell you what, I would love to start with Lieutenant Clark. Why don't you just tell me about Lieutenant Clark?
Brad was he was an amazing guy, one of a kind. He truly gave 100% to whatever he put his heart in. And for Brad, he had a commitment to our country and joined the Army in 1995, served our country honorably, and was a veteran. And then I think once he got out of the Army, he really missed the brotherhood, the aspect of that. And his dad is a fireman, a retired fireman from Hanover County, which is the next county over from us. And, you know, it dawned on Brad after he left the Army, hey, you know, maybe I should do what my dad does and become a fireman. But Brad was just a passionate, honest, all-in type of guy, whether it be as a father to our girls or a husband to me, a lieutenant to his guys. He was just driven, focused, loyal, dedicated, all the admirable qualities that I can come up with. Brad touched them all. So really, it's just, he's a guy that you would meet and you would instantly just fall for him. Whether you're a dude talking about tactics in the fire department, or whether you're a dance mom, waiting for our girls to practice dance. I mean, he would just be able to connect with you on the level that you were at. And I think that is just truly amazing and hard to find, a quality hard to find in others.
What did you do in the Army?
Brad was stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So he was an infantry guy. Mm-hmm. So he made a lot of lifelong relationships with some of the guys that he served in the Army with. And up until his death, they would meet pretty regularly, once a year, and attend, whether it be a Baltimore Ravens game or just have like a dude weekend. The relationships Brad formed, he was able to maintain them through life. And he communicated so effectively. And the funny thing is, a lot of people, especially when he passed, told me that it's like, they're like, yeah, just talk to Brad. But he was able to communicate with so many people without making me as his wife feel left behind or left out. Mm-hmm. So again, just a really another unique quality that he had.
What about the transition from like military to firefighter? Was it pretty easy for him because of that brotherhood?
I think that really helped. And also I think the military gave him a sense of structure and organization too, that so I think that transition from the military to the fire department was very smooth because he already had that structure, and like I said, he really longed for that brotherhood and missed that in the civilian world. So for him, you know, I remember he was telling me, you know, when he joined the academy and went into that first burn simulation in the burn building, it was like his heart just beat even faster, and just being around the firemen, and he really loved it. Excuse me, that's our dog.
Quite all right. I'm going to interview the dog next. So how long was Lieutenant Clark in the fire department?
So Brad joined the academy, Hanover EMS in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So up until his death, he was in the fire department.
So what was he on, an engine or a truck company or ambulance?
Yeah. So our department, we have an ambulance. We support EMS as well. So he was on a truck, a fire engine. His dream was always to be on a truck company, but where his last assignment, he was a station with a fire engine, but that had a fully staffed EMS. So to give his guys a break, sometimes he would ride the box just to give them a little bit of a break, and also to remember how much he didn't like that part of the job. That's a very all about fire type of fireman, but he had a great sense of calming people in emergency situations. So he was awesome at EMS. That just wasn't his preference.
That's pretty nice. A great leader there that says, look, I'll take the hit. I'll ride the box. You guys get to sleep tonight.
Yeah. And, I don't remember how often he would do that, but he told me he wanted to make that a practice for him and the guys. I think it was like a once a month type of thing, just to give the guys a break, and for him, to let them see that he wants to help them do their job and to be a team player too.
That's fantastic. That really is. I like that story. I don't know that I'd ever be that kind of good leader. Yeah, I'm not going to ride the ambulance. Sorry, I did that. Good for him.
That he would do that because he'd come home a little glazed over and just like, oh man, that was a tough one, or that was a tough tour, because, he kind of got used to that lieutenant's role. But yeah, he enjoyed giving the guys a break, and just, it sharpened his skills to kind of keep his A game going. And then it gave the guys a break too. So it worked.
Oh, great. Great. Now I know Hanover's got a gigantic area they cover.
Yes.
Had Eddie Buchanan on last a couple weeks ago. And then, of course, we both know Chris Hubbard. I work with Chris with the society, and he was telling me all about, Lieutenant Clark and yourself. So just to give you a little backstory, how I know about him is obviously when it happened, if you subscribe to certain websites and stuff, they send you emails whenever we lose a brother or sister in the fire service. And I remember that coming across like so many others. And then fast forward, I'm out teaching with Chief Hubbard. And while we were at dinner, he got a message, I believe, saying the person that caused the accident was actually in jail or put in jail. So do you feel like telling us about what happened on October 11th, 2018?
Sure. So I'll just start with, that season, we had a lot of bad weather, whether it be just gust of wind and a storm. And it seemed like Brad would just, unfortunately, work those tours where the weather was kind of tricky and I'd be home by myself. And so we kind of had a thing going. I was actually working at the dental office on October the 11th. And Brad told me that morning when he left, he's like, Mel, the weather's going to be anticipated to be really bad. So I may call you and ask that you go home early just to avoid it. That evening, we were supposed to celebrate at the firehouse. One of his guys got reassigned to another firehouse. So we were going to have a dinner, purchased a cake, and just really, just love on him before he went to his new house. And Brad called me that afternoon. It was probably around 1 or 2 o'clock. And he said, Mel, the weather is getting bad and I want you to go. So I talked to my doctor that I worked for, and I said, Brad's working and he wants me to go home. And she closed dental practice down. We ushered our patients out and we all left early. And instead of celebrating at the firehouse, I came home and kind of hunkered down for the bad weather. And I remember Brad would text me often, as he did during the day, just checking on me. And I got a phone call from him around 9 o'clock in the evening. And as we were talking, the tones went off that he had a call. And as we all know, I just quickly said, I love you and be careful. And hindsight being 2020, I'm just so grateful that God gave me that chance to tell him that I love him. And I was just at home, and we still had electricity here. And I was watching TV in our room, and my brother-in-law called me, and he said, Mel, have you talked to him, Brad? And I said, yeah, actually, I just talked to him about 30 minutes ago, and he was leaving on a call. And he asked me if I, heard of an accident or anything. And what was kind of peculiar was earlier in the day, we had another truck that a tree fell on the platform of an aerial truck. And that was the accident I thought my brother-in-law was referring to. So I was completely confused. So Jonathan told me he would, just for me to call him if I heard from Brad, and I would, do the same, or he would do the same. And then probably about 10 or so minutes passed, and my father-in-law called me and asked me the same set of questions. And at that point, I just was wondering in the back of my mind, is something going on? And then another brother called, and I just, the despair and the fear started to set in. And I, for the lack of a better word, kind of got myself together. I kind of fell on the ground. I just had a really bad feeling that something bad happened. And I got myself together. I basically threw on a jacket, was in my pajamas, and drove in the storm to the firehouse at Station 6, and was notified there that Brad was killed. And the chaplain came in, the fire chief came in, and it was devastating, to say the least. Our family started to come in and told me the worst news of my entire life. And so, yeah, that's a very, that's a nutshell of how I was notified. And so it was very traumatic. And as a wife, a fire wife, your worst nightmare come true.
That's horrible. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine. So sorry for that. I know out of this tragedy, though, when I talk about the half of the things I didn't mention about you is what you did after that. And reading it doesn't seem like it's just for Brad, Lieutenant Clark. I'm sorry. It's for all firefighters, especially in the Virginia area. Can you tell me what caused you to carry that torch? Because it's difficult enough to go through what you went through, but to do this seems like to me it would just be a reminder every day.
Yes, it is. But I still feel a dedication and loyalty and love, not only for Brad, but for the fire service and the firefighters that he left behind. Brad was so passionate about the fire department that it was almost contagious for me. Instead of being jealous or, I don't know, he always made me feel like a part of that brotherhood. So I would be an guest often to the firehouse, and I made connections with these guys too. And I saw a glimpse in those moments of just why Brad loved the fire department and the guys so much. I just saw a little glimpse of it. And when Brad was killed, I cannot tell you the amount of support that our family received from his brothers. It was overwhelming and awesome and inspiring. And it's just almost hard for me to put into words. I think that was the difference between staying parked in my pain and moving beyond that and helping others. And that is exactly what Brad would want me to do. Before he was killed, he would go to different fire conferences like Andy Frederick's, Wichita Hot, Art of Firemanship, all these wonderful fire conferences, just to kind of bridge the gap for the brotherhood in the fire department, where, you've got some super motivated guys who automatically get it. And then you've got some guys that struggle with being a fireman. And so he was kind of talking to the guys about how to kind of bridge that gap and to get everybody on the same team and to work together. And so I feel like he did pass that torch. And because of my love for him, I'm just sending it forward. I think, because of the situation, the media was very present for this story in my life. And I felt like I was at a crossroads, and I could have, again, just tried to stay confined in my pain, or use the media as a platform to help protect the guys that Brad left behind. And so that's what I decided to do. But I think it's because of that support that I received from his brothers and my family, and we have faith, and that helped sustain me to where I am today. There's no doubt about that. His guys would literally make a calendar, and they would put their names, and they would take turns staying at our house from the month of October until January 13th, just being here at night so that I wasn't by myself. They would take the dog. They would take out my trash. They were my security until I had a security system in my home. They were someone that I could talk to when I was going through just the grief and trauma. And, I question sometimes in that whole process, was that a helpful thing for those guys just because they lost someone that they adored and loved too? And what I've since learned is my healing has aided in their healing. That some of them have shared with me that seeing me move forward has helped them to move forward. And they have remained in the fire department, and they are active firemen. And if I had a little part in that, I'm truly grateful.
That's amazing. The brotherhood in the fire department, sometimes it's very small, small in things that you can do, but something like that, what they did to help you, that's just, I don't have the word for something like that. That's something you don't want to ever have to see.
No,
but it's comforting knowing it's there.
Yeah. And, they saw the pain and felt the pain up close and personal, and they chose to kind of go with me through the storm. And I really believe that is a huge part why I was able to move forward and do what I've done. Not only that, but I had an incredible opportunity to work with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them at all.
I've heard about it, yes.
They help families of the fallen, whether it's police officers, firefighter, or military families that may lose a spouse in the line of duty. They came in, one of Brad's Academy brothers reached out to them on our behalf. I didn't know about it at the time, told them our story, and they flew down from New York and paid off our mortgage, which allowed me the opportunity to leave behind my dental administration and focus head on and full on into the move over movement, really, and awareness to the move over law because of, the truck driver that killed Brad said he wasn't unaware of the law, even though he was a veteran truck driver. He was from the next state over, Maryland, which every state now has some form of the move over law. So I think, part of our healing comes in education and hopefully helping to prevent a tragedy from another family, because this could have been prevented. If the driver would have done one thing different, Brad would still be here with us. But what's kind of eerie looking back is Brad and I had a conversation probably a month before he was struck and killed. And he talked to me about the calls and the near close misses that they've had on the interstate. We have a very busy 4-lane interstate that runs through our county, and Brad and a lot of his guys, the firehouses are centrally located around this busy interstate. So they have close calls where they can feel the breeze of the cars that are traveling 80 miles per hour. They see their lives flashing in front of their face when they look back and they see that they had a near miss or a close call. I don't know that I can live through another firefighter funeral like that. I don't know that our department can survive a loss like that. And so anything that I can do to help prevent it, that's what I'm going to do.
So tell me about the move over law in Virginia, and then what you've done to make people more aware of it, or even change the law itself.
Yes. So our family worked closely with former Delegate Chris Peace to amend the current move over law. The pre-amended law was a passable citation if you fail to move over or slow down when you're in a multi-lane highway. If you fail to move over, slow down, then you could get a ticket. I think the fine was up to $250. And obviously, given the situation, there's no penalty or fine that would come close to restoring a life. But we felt like if we did our part in trying to amend the law, that at least it would be talked about, awareness would be brought, and it would also show our community at large that our firefighters, our police officers' lives, they do matter. And so several months, a lot of testimony in front of legislators all over our state, which was frustrating and very tiresome, to say the least. And I would corner them in every hall of every building, and I hand typed just a piece of paper that talked about Brad's career, his service, and why this amendment is essential to protecting our firefighters. And it was kind of funny because it got to the point at the end of the session that they were hiding when they'd see me coming down the hallway. Like they would scatter like rats. And then I knew.
You had politicians hiding from you?
That was awesome. And let me say, part of the law being amended was the guys were there to support me and testify. So it wasn't just me and our family. We had the support of our fire department behind me as well. And that mattered. So in 2019, we got a law passed that made failure to move over class 1 misdemeanor up to 1 year, up to 1 year in jail, and also potential reckless driving offense. So that is a considerable difference from the previous law. Mm-hmm. So in addition to that law, we also got a move over memorial plate made in Brad's honor. And on that move over Virginia state plate, it has a silhouette or likeness of my husband, which is actually a portrait that was a picture taken from another firefighter at another fire conference. And this picture just encapsulated Brad's personality. So we were able to use that picture on this license plate. And so it has Brad's picture, and then below his likeness, move over. And we just hope that it serves as a reminder to motorists that if you don't move over, here's the consequence. This is a man that won't get to see his daughters get married and graduate from college. And so there's a sacrifice attached. These guys that are working on the side of the roads for us to protect us, they have a family that they want to go home to. So we hope that education is a big part of the key in making a difference. The proceeds from this plate is so cool, goes to Andy Frederick's Family Fund. Brad, when he spoke at Andy Frederick's, you would have thought, and he got accepted for his presentation, you would have thought you would given him $1 million. He was ecstatic and just loved what they stand for. Loved that this foundation took care of Andy Frederick's children and got them through college. And so for me to be able to help support that foundation with this plate has been great.
That's amazing. That's just amazing. I really like the part where you got politicians afraid of you. That's still one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
So,
politics, not my my thing.
That's probably why they're running. I can assume you're pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So tell me about the awareness. So, I mean, you've changed the laws, you've got the plates, but what else can you do for the awareness so people know that, hey, this is even more serious than you think?
Well, part of my goal is to also still stay heavily involved with the fire departments. So I get the opportunity to travel all across United States and present our story. And some things that we did that was helpful is probably not the correct word, but some things Brad and I did in estate planning that were helpful in this situation, some things that I wish we would have done. And so part of our message is sharing Brad's story, his sacrifice, because on October the 11th, when he saw the tractor trailer coming after he dismounted off of the engine, he warned his crew, and his warning saved their lives. So I always start when I present with Brad and his story. And then I transition into, like I said, some of the things that were important after Brad's death. One of the things he did, and I'm not sure if you've heard about it or not, but Brad left me a letter. And I remember going to one of his stations that he was assigned to just for dinner. And he, asked me to come in the lieutenant's office with him. And he said, Mel, I wrote a letter if something ever should happen to me. And of course, I was just like, I can't even believe we're talking about this. I don't want to talk about this. And he said, there's a letter that I want you to retrieve if something happens to me. And I didn't read it that day. Actually, I didn't read it until I was told that he died in the line of duty. And, but that letter to our family and to our friends was an absolute gift. We knew how Brad felt about us, but to hear that in his own words. And he also talked about that his wishes as far as, cremation and who he wanted his pallbearers to be. He basically gave me a sketch of the outline of his memorial service. And so I didn't have that doubt of what would my husband want for me to do. I knew what Brad wanted for me to do. So I tell the guys, and that I meet that is so important for families. And also I talk to them about how important it is to have a will and some information, if kept in a folder that is essential for the spouse after this happens, like birth certificates, home deeds, and passwords to, banking information or Facebook, or all of that is so essential. Some of that information I had prior to Brad's death, and some that I had to retrieve on my own. And I can just speak from my experience. When I was notified that Brad was killed, I was stunned, sick, sad, sleep deprived, to say a few. So that's why I try to get these guys prepared as best that they can, because their family is going to be overwhelmed, and to have a little bit of peace of mind for the family and for them is, I think, super important.
Wow. That's amazing. From everything, it sounds like Lieutenant Clark was just super thoughtful.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know that I've ever thought about it in those terms, that, how important stuff like that is after the fact. So that's wow. That's really.
And Jake, I do think, part of his military training may have helped with even thinking about formulating a letter, because their risk of injury or death may be a little bit higher than a firefighter. So I think the military kind of trained him to be forward thinking as far as that's concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of our guys, as you know better than I, that, when they graduate academy, they're handed a folder with HR benefits and they're told, fill it out. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's an important reminder that I talk to those guys and say, what are your benefits? Let's talk about this. Do you have questions? And I try to help, departments that reach out to me and talk about a line of duty death, like what steps were helpful for our family that we had, and maybe what could have been done a little differently. Now, of course, every family is different. My involvement with the fire department has always been pretty significant. So these guys weren't strangers to me. And I tell everybody that I meet that that's so important for your spouse to feel a part of the fire family, because, what's a layer of grief on top of grief is that I would be surrounded by people that I don't know, that I don't trust. That wasn't the case. That's because Brad brought me in. He made sure that everyone knew me, and I was able to form those relationships with these guys before Brad died, and they're absolutely permanently cemented on my heart now. One thing that I don't know that every department does, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if this is a county-wide thing or what, but our county appointed me a liaison, and he was a miracle to our family. He knew Brad, he knew me, he loved Brad. He worked with Brad at a previous firehouse. He gave our family the breath that we needed. He was here as soon as I'd wake up in the morning, only to leave at night. He was with me when I bought my funeral dresses, when I was at the funeral home making preparations. He took me to the doctor. I wasn't eating or sleeping. I lost 30 pounds in like 2 months. I mean, I suffered. And these guys were there for me. And having a liaison is just huge, huge. So I talk about Scott, and I talk about his training in the National Honor Guard. And I think that helped prepare him for the unfortunate position that he was placed in. So all of that matters. And it made a difference for us.
I'd say most departments don't have something like that. That's a great thing to put down on a policy or something. So it's not at the time of something horrible like that is not when you want to decide who's going to do that role and what they're going to do.
Exactly.
So you go around and do all these speeches and stuff and, annoy politicians. Again, that's awesome. What's next for you?
I am moving forward in my relationship with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. I had an opportunity a couple of weeks ago to see the CEO again and to meet some awesome donors who are essential to the growth of this foundation. So I hopefully will continue to partner with them and help countless other families like me in the future. I intend on continuing on the path of education, whether it be at fire conferences, talking to amazing guys, and I love to hear their stories. And it still makes me feel like a part of the family. So I plan on continue doing that. And I want to get involved even more so with our department, our locally. Mm-hmm. I've got some great ideas. I'm not sure Chris and Eddie would agree with that. Oh, great ideas for those guys. I keep them on their toes.
As well, Chris, you should.
I love Chris and his wife, Emily, are wonderful, wonderful people. But yeah, I just see myself continuing on in with firemen and fire departments. And the thing is with Brad's story, with our story, is there's so many elements of it that we can help so many people. Even if you take a little part of the story and apply it, I believe that just that alone has helped other families. I've had guys that will meet me in the hallways after my class, and they'll say, Mel, I called my wife and I've made an appointment with an attorney and we're going to get our will taken care of. Or they have those difficult conversations with their spouse that they've been avoiding. And, it brings them closer and it gives them a peace of mind. If that's what they take from this, then I've done what I'm supposed to do. And I've made Brad proud. And one of the guys I remember I was telling, I just want to make Brad proud. And he's like, Mel, are you kidding me? You could be in your pajamas on the couch, looking like a hobo, and Brad would be proud of his buttercup. Brad was very, very proud of me. And I feel pretty certain that he's equally as proud, just smiling down from heaven. So
quite sure of it. So let me ask you this. So if people want to get a hold of you to hear your message and have you come speak, where can they get a hold of you?
So I think, Chris is probably a good contact. Our fire department.
Hanover Fire-EMS, Chief Chris Hubbard.
Yes, would be a good contact point. I also have an email address that I check frequently. That would be a good contact point for me. What I'm learning is that when I speak, my conference that I attend usually takes a toll on me. So I have to be careful about my commitment. I'm learning to protect myself in all of this and to continue taking care of my mental health. And so I'm learning to make sure that I take breaks and take time to, just come back after a conference, because it's very emotional. It's hard, it's heavy. So just know if you email me, it might take me a couple of days to get back to you, but I will work on that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll put in the description, whatever email you send me that you want people to maybe talk to you about this. Sure. You obviously have a wonderful message. Lieutenant Clark, is a hero. He's a hero. And you're a hero, but I have to apologize to you right off the bat. I'm going to apologize to you. So before we started recording this, I said, this is kind of cool. I've been looking forward to talking to you. And you're my first non-firefighter that I've got to get on my podcast. Well, it's still, you're obviously a sister in the fire service, and I still haven't had anybody on here that wasn't a firefighter. So I apologize for that. That's wrong.
It's okay.
It's been an honor talking to you. Thank you very much for being on my podcast. If there's anything I can do, please let me know.
Will do. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's about just, continuing on, and there is life after loss. And so some of the messages, there is hope. And I'm just honored to be a small part of hopefully helping other families that have gone through or will go through something similar. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I just also want to say real quick that our guys at and women at Hanover EMS are just so professional, that the way that they were able to still operate, do their job in a professional manner, even seeing the aftermath of the accident, that's part of my story too. That just shows that they are trained well, that they I don't know. I'm overwhelmed. I still learn, for a while, I wasn't able to process everything, and I wasn't ready to hear all the details of the incident. And I'm still, find myself putting in some puzzle pieces here and there, because I'm, okay with hearing more and more. But, one of my major takeaways is he would just be so proud of his crew and the second due engine and the guys riding that box that night that helped save Dave and Carter, his other two guys that were catastrophically injured. If it wasn't for their training and their devotion to Brad and the department, we would have it's hard for me to say, a worse story than what we're talking about now, but it could have fatally impacted more members of his crew if it weren't for Brad's actions and the actions of his crew and the rest of the guys that showed up and just did an amazing job under extreme emotional stress. So I'm grateful to them too.
Nothing but love for Hanover.
No doubt.
Chris Hubbard. Before I go, I was going to say, listening to you, it seems like the message is not just surviving, but thriving. Yes. And it's inspiring to listen to you and listen to your story, because I just don't know, put in your shoes, I don't know. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, it's been, there are days where it's harder for me than others. There are days where grief really knocks me down, and I just have to get back up. And I guess, I have faith, and I know where Brad is, and that gives me comfort too. So I know that the time between us is temporary. So what I can do now is just try to make a difference like he did. I mean, he was such an amazing guy that, like I said, that passion for the fire department, well, just being a great guy was contagious. And I just want to pass that on like he did. And hopefully, because of our family and his guys in the fire department and the guys that will never have the opportunity to meet Brad, but just by knowing us, his story will live on forever. So I'm grateful just to be a part of that.
I'd started off kind of early in this saying, reading about it when it happened and not knowing any of the story behind it other than a few blurbs. And after talking to Chris and talking to you, I feel, a little more, I don't know, I'm not going to say like I know Lieutenant Clark, but I know more about him. So I think that's important whenever you lose, a brother or sister, that you don't want them forgotten. So there's a sticker on all my helmets, even to this day, with 646, which is what that is right there, 646, where we lost a brother. And one of the firefighters at the time said, I'm just worried that people are going to forget him. I just don't want people to forget him. And that's where the stickers come from, and the 646. And so we need to do that. We need to say their names out loud. We need to make sure other people hear the names and realize the sacrifice. And you know what? Not just the sacrifice, but what's going on behind the scenes with the family. Absolutely.
Yeah, because that service that Brad signed up for, we kind of signed up for too. And so it's a significant sacrifice for our family, and we kind of carry on now without him. And it's a definite hole in our department. It's a hole in our hearts, but I think, it helps us just to be able to help others. And so, yeah, thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to, catching up with you later when I, annoy some other politicians about something.
Please do. If you can take a video of trapping one in the bathroom saying, please leave me alone, Miss Clark, that would be awesome. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, Ms. Clark.
Thank
Bye.
you, Jake.